Hey, welcome everybody. It's a Good Friday edition of Talkback, brought to you by Bitterroot Motors, doing it right for more than 42 years. Office solutions and services, locally owned solutions for every office. The Mustard Seed Restaurant, automotive cutting edge at 1510 Bulwark. Call 542-2218. And our newest sponsor, Transport Equipment, your headquarters for RV service maintenance and repair. Give them a call at 541-9097. Hey, it's Good Friday edition of Talkback. I'm Peter Christian. Good morning, John King.
Hey, good morning. Happy Good Friday to you.
Yes, and we have our special guest in the studio, the Honorable Ryan Zinke, who's, of course, Congressman for the state of Montana, the lone Congressman.
The lone Congressman. Great to be with you. You know, any day in Montana is better than the best day in Washington, D.C.
By the way, he does have a giant belt buckle that says Montana on. So he's
very cool.
Very Western
boots
today.
Yes. Yes. Got the cowboy boots rocking, too, by the way. All right, so first of all, welcome home.
Great to be home.
And let's go top three things going on in Washington that are getting your attention.
Well, hey, Congress passed a budget. So on the House side, there it is.
Congress does that.
Well, not only that, it was passed in a bipartisan fashion. About 37 votes against it. So a body of 300 or 435.
Wow.
Only 37 voting against it. You know, that's heavily bipartisan. It was $3 trillion less than the president's budget. It balances in 10 years.
Wow.
We fully funded the defense because of what we face. I had the first entitlement reform, and over 10 years had doctor fix, SRS for the timber. Wasn't a perfect bill, but it was a good bill overall. And I think Congress did what where we were sent to do is pass a bill, move the yardage up the field.
Now the critics of this budget, from what I understand, are kind of howling about. You're balancing the budget on the backs of Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, things like that. So how do you respond to a charge like that?
Well, it balances in 10 years. We didn't get here overnight.
Right.
So it does fund Medicare. It funds Social Security. It funds the primary workings of the government. It also looks at ways we can do things better. For instance, the doctor fix. Rather than going through every year and discounting what the doctors will get reimbursed.
Ask the CEO of any small town hospital about Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements. It seems like every year it starts out 70%, ends up being 45%, and you wonder why they're going out of business.
Well, yeah, and we needed a long-term fix. Now, over the long term, it saves money, but also gives stability. And for rural Montana, where we're challenged to have primary care doctors, if you outside of Missoula, you go down to Winnett and Forsyth and Thompson Falls. We have a hard time finding primary care doctors. A lot of us, the reimbursement rates are too low for the state. So, that was part of the fix. SRS, look at I'm concerned about the timber. Yesterday was a round table here with the timber folks. I'm concerned about a hot forest season where we're going to get fires, and it adversely affects our watershed. And, especially the dead and dying trees, our forests are not healthy. And just removing the dead and dying trees will mitigate to a degree the risk of forest fires. And also the watershed. The watershed's incredibly important in Montana. It affects our streams, rivers, fishing. We want to make sure we protect that.
There's a lot of people out there that see the dead and dying trees, especially on federal land, and think, hey, Montanans could do this better. And are urging for a transfer of federal lands to state ownership or local ownership. What do you think about that pitch? Do you think it's short-sighted or a good idea?
I don't want to sell any public land. I think Montanans have a legacy of utilizing our federal lands and our state forests. We enjoy hunting. We enjoy access. We enjoy fishing. I don't think it's a question of transfer. I think it's a question of better management. How do we return back to, Teddy Roosevelt and Pinchot and empowering our forest managers to make the decisions there rather than having the decisions made in D.C. When I grew up, a forest ranger, district ranger, has an enormous amount of power, and he also had a staff. And somewhere we have more lawyers than scientists in the woods, and we need to correct that trend. And that's manage our forest based on better science, and we can. We're America.
Yeah. I guess my question is: since when did wilderness equate with dead and millions of acres of dead and dying trees?
Well, I grew up next to Bob Marshall, and when a windstorm comes through and it knocks a trail down, and you're not allowed to get in there and clear the trail, you have to use a buck saw. I mean, we've kind of lost our mind. There's no common sense in there, and why you can't have a mountain bike, on a designated trail. You're not going to go off trail in the Bob. But certainly, having access to our treasures and having that access enjoyed by a lot of people that enjoy trails and riding, you can do it right. But and also, I'm a huge advocate of multiple use. Our federal lands were made for also economic prosperity of the citizenship around it, because you're having a healthy economy. Drives making sure you have a healthy forest, and they're related. But some folks just don't want to see any timber harvest, even though what's the alternative? We're going to have them burned down every 7 years. Yeah. That just makes no sense.
Let's take a call quick before we take our first break. Rick, you're on with Congressman Zinke. Go ahead.
Good morning, Congressman. How are you today?
I am fine, Rick. I'm doing great.
Welcome home. Question. The House, the Senate, President, everybody having trust problems, honesty problems with the nation. And Senator Reid made some comments over the weekend about lying on the Senate floor. And I tried Senator Tester's office, and he had no comment. I wonder if you had a statement or something.
Well, yeah, it's atrocious.
Thanks, Rick.
It's atrocious. If he knowingly and willingly lied on the House about saying, well, I understand the rumors out there that Governor Romney hasn't paid taxes for 10 years. If he knowingly and willingly knew that wasn't the case, and he gets on the Senate floor, that's dead wrong. What country? What government says that's correct?
That's Banana Republic stuff.
I've never heard of a politician lying. I've
never. I think you
first time.
Call the balls and strikes for what they are. Why don't we get back to just talking about truth and fact based and call it the way it is? That's a lie, and he was kind of proud of it. I saw the interview. I was aghast, quite frankly.
And what he said under his breath was, well, he didn't win, so what does it matter whether I lied or not?
Well, what does it matter whether you erase emails or say, I'm the Secretary of State, and whatever I say isn't classified, because private conversations between heads of state, well, that certainly is not classified.
No, of course not.
By the way, my servers were protected because I had an armed guard next to them. They didn't get hacked. It's just not credible.
We have to take a break. We're coming up right back. Catherine and Candy will get you guys on. We have one line open. Congressman Zinke is going to be with us till 9:30. We'll be right back. And we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. And, of course, we have the lines almost full. We have one line open, 721-1290. Congressman Ryan Zinke joining us here in studio. Let's get back to the phones. Catherine, go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Congressman.
Hey, Catherine, how are you?
Oh, just peachy, thank you. Okay. There are, to my knowledge, 3 Americans that are being held in Iran. One is a decorated Marine by the name of Amir Hekmati, I believe.
Yep.
And then there is Jason Rezaian, who is a journalist. He's been held since July with no charges. And Bob Levinson, who disappeared 8 years ago in Iran. As far as I can tell, the release of these men is not part of any sort of agreement, and in fact has not been pushed at all by the State Department. Is there any way that Congress can force the State Department and the President to make these Americans prisoners release contingent on agreement or on final agreement on this whatever you want to call it?
Framework? Well, the details are a little lacking on what this framework is. You may have seen, we were just talking before the break about in Iran. I mean, they're celebrating the streets about it, and of course they're pretty muted.
We didn't
Israel.
have a parade in Missoula.
No, we did not, which is surprising in Missoula, but didn't have one. Every day's a parade in Missoula, but the issue is on the framework of the negotiation. In my judgment, you cannot have a legal path for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. period. Iran has not shown it to be a nation that is anything other than promoting terrorism. You look at the kidnapping. It started with the Khomeini regime kidnapping Americans in our embassy, and then you had Beirut. You now have Iran funding terrorism throughout the region in Africa, South America. You have Iranian Republican Guard embedded with the Badr Army and probably regular troops in Iraq itself. You have Iran funding multiple organizations and Islamic terrorist organizations. So Iran as an honest and a state that has exhibited a track record of good behavior, they're just not there. In the case of the individuals, whether you can tie it or not and put pressure on Iran to do the right thing, one is I'm suspect of the framework, because I just having Iran continue to enrich uranium, continue to have the centrifuges, continue to have the dialogue that they're going to destroy and annihilate the West, the United States, and wipe Israel off the map. To me, they're not an honest broker, and this is not, this negotiation isn't haggling over the price of a rug. This is about a nuclear weapon. And if these Islamic terrorist organizations are willing to drive a plane into our towers and kill 3,000 innocent civilians, then make no mistake, if given a nuclear weapon, it'll be in Washington, D.C. or New York in a kind of country moment.
Well, what about those three people in particular? Is there any way for Congress to back forcing their release for anything else?
Well, Congress can huff and puff a lot, but and on such things, a lot of times it's the administration has to carry it out. And I think we're going to look at very carefully what the terms of this agreement are. We could look at these individual cases and put pressure on Iran. My concern is obviously the nuclear part first and foremost. But I think we're going to have to look and see. Certainly, if it's a U.S. citizen, I think. Any American president and administration and Congress should be concerned and do whatever we can to have them return.
Go ahead, John.
I just wanted to ask Ryan, have you had a chance to look at the framework that was released by Secretary Kerry yesterday?
No, and I don't think anyone has.
There's at least bullet points of it out, and they're officially released. None of the framework, as far as
thanks for your call.
From my reading of it, does include those three. If a final deal were to go to Congress, to approve the treaty, could they conditionally add that back in before anything was done, or is the negotiation done and you have to deal with it when it gets to Congress?
Well, you could add it back in. I'm sure you can. Obviously negotiating over conditions of a nuclear program. I think the three individuals are probably a sideshow. I mean, they're not. Right. Front that would be negotiated. That'd be fairly straightforward, but I think the main focus of it.
How about just a good faith gesture?
Well, it'd be nice, but when's the last time Iran has had any good faith? So I'll call.
We live in hope.
I'm just not in a position where I can trust Iran given their track record, And certainly, if there is an agreement, and the agreement does shut down their nuclear program, and we can verify it where they're going to shut down their facilities, then I think that's a fair arrangement. And the sanctions over, there can be no legal path for Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Okay. So it is just a framework for a plan. It sounds kind of like the Missoula water, the city's planning to plan for a plan, kind of 3 steps removed. Anyway, we have a question on Facebook here. Elena wants to know, this is some local Montana stuff. She says, this Tuesday, the Montana House Committee will hear SB 405, the Medicaid extension or expansion bill. Where does Zinke stand on that extension for Montana, and where does he stand and why regarding the CSKT compact?
Medicare. One is, I think, always the better route is jobs. Is making sure we have an economy that moves forward rather than establishing, more dependence on public. The Medicaid program was never intended to be the end all. And
It was supposed to be a stopgap measure.
Well,
right?
for those the poorest of the families that have no other options. Obamacare we're looking at, and I think the court is actually going to rule 5-4 that unless you have a state exchange, the federal subsidy of Obamacare is unlawful. That's going to take the Obamacare itself, which is a sinking ship. That's probably going to put a torpedo on the side. The challenge to Congress is to act and form a lifeboat. There's over 20,000 families in Montana that got a letter. Your current insurance is no longer valid.
Right.
Remember, if you like your insurance, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. You remember that one?
Yeah, the lie of 2 years ago.
That's,
right?
Okay, well, that's going to come back because we're going to have to
Another
Congress. We're going to have to
politician
reconstruct a lifeboat that honors that. As far as the water compact goes, there's some elements that I'm not very comfortable with on it. The state is looking at it very, very closely. I'm not very comfortable with a number of provisions on it. I'm hoping the state looks at it closely and makes the right decision.
Okay, we're going to come right back, and we have Candy, Jerry, and Doug, and I'm sure we have Facebook comments, and only about 10 minutes left with the Congressman. We'll be right back. We're back on Talkback. Ow! All right, we're back.
Nice lead-in song. I like
Thank
it.
you. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. All right. Ryan Zinke's joining us here in studio. Let's get right to phones because we are rapidly running out of time. Candy, go ahead. You're on with Ryan.
Yes.
Hey,
good
Candy,
morning,
how are you?
Ryan. We have never met before, I don't think, but I'm looking at an article here. It's an op-ed from Cliff Larson, and to quote, it says, Montana's U.S. Senators John Tester and Steve Daines and Representative Ryan Zinke all approve of this CSKT compact.
Well, I know Cliff. He should not speak out of turn and speak for me.
Well, okay.
How's that?
A lot of people speak for me too, and I don't want them to, but it doesn't seem to stop them. So, what are you going to do about this? If it's saying here that you agree?
Well,
and
here's where I said that the caller before asked me about the compact, and there's some provisions in it that I'm not very comfortable with, and I'm hoping the state legislature, that's where it's at.
Will you be contacting Cliff Larson and telling him to retract this?
Yeah, I'll talk to Cliff, but
Okay,
one should not say my position unless I state
Exactly.
it. But I know Cliff. We were state senators together.
I understand that.
Candy, we got to get some more calls on.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right.
But
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Candy.
Okay, Jerry. I'm sorry, Candy. Jerry, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'll make it quick.
Thank you, sir.
Congressman is a lifelong Republican who is so disgusted with the Republican leadership. Tell me why I should keep supporting the Republican Party when they keep folding to Obama and not standing up and fighting like we sent you guys there to do. Thanks.
Well, I'll agree. I think this president is lawless, and here's the part of the challenge is I don't think our founders ever really thought about having a lawless and maintain times unconstitutional president that was so popular. So Congress, let's take a look at what we can do. So if we disagree, we have to go to the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the top law enforcement official in the land. Now, when you have an Attorney General that we have and the President we have, I'm not sure how far we're going to go in that. So then our recourse is to sue. Well, we've sued multiple times where there's two lawsuits of merit. One is that Congress, our Congress, put 4 amendments in on the House to defund the president's unconstitutional actions. Now, all those 4 amendments made sure he couldn't move money around and do it. There was also a judge out of Brownsville that said his actions are unconstitutional. He said he didn't have his authority 22 times. So Congress did our duty and put the amendments on it. Do I think of the leadership? I can tell you the new members coming in. This new class includes Steve Russell, a light colonel that wrote a book, Got Him. He had a large degree play in capturing Saddam Hussein. You have Martha McSally, the first female commanding officer. She flew A-10s. She's tough.
Cool.
You have Mia Love out of Utah, and she's just a ball of fire. And there's at least 20 congressmen there. They're all business that have enormous amount of talent. So don't give up on Congress,
Because the leadership will change eventually, right?
yeah, I am oftentimes with McCarthy, who's the majority leader, and Scalise, and I tell you, they're pipe hitters. They're tough guys. They love our country, and they're good leaders.
Let's try to get a couple more calls in
Okay.
before we have to let you
But
go.
thanks.
Doug, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Congressman Zinke, how are you?
I am great. What's up, Doug?
Well, I just want to invite you. The Christian veterans of the Bitterroot are going to do a March for Jesus Christ tomorrow from Lolo to Hamilton. And if those old seal legs can handle it, it'd be neat to see you walk about 3 miles with us in one of the checkpoints.
I would thank you for the invitation tomorrow. I got to be up in the Flathead doing something that I hate, and that's my taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Believe me, I'd rather much be on our march with you guys than doing my taxes. So I got to do them too. So I got to go out to Montana and sit behind the desk and look at all my receipts, and because they look right with me.
Oh, yeah,
I'm the squeakiest clean Boy Scout there is, and I can't wait for someone like Harry Reid to say, you know what, I don't think Zinke's paid taxes in 10 years.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to let you go. And best of luck on your march. Let's try to get one more call in. Roy, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Good morning, Ryan. Welcome home.
Hey, thanks, Roy. Good to be with you this morning.
Yeah, I'm wondering your opinion of the mandate in Obamacare, and what you intend and what our representatives from Montana intend to do about this mandate. And I appreciate you, Ryan, and keep up the good fight.
Thanks for the call.
All you got to do is swing in Washington, D.C., because you're going to hit something every day. So this is where I think Obamacare is heading. Is that I've always said it's a sinking ship. We're going to have to abandon the ship, and we're going to have a lifeboat though that works. I think the Supreme Court is going to rule 5-4 that a federal subsidy is unlawful unless it is a state exchange. Now, Montana, Texas, Florida, there's some big states with a lot of people on the rolls that are we're going to have to find a congressional fix. That congressional fix is going to have to be a much smaller platform. And remember the promise? We were laughing. If you like your doctor, you can keep him. You like your insurance. Well, that promise, should be met. The other part about it is that what was really bad about Obamacare was the mechanism to pay for it. It went over on business, and it affects business. If you grow past 50, you're penalized. You have a 30-hour work week, you're penalized. Medical equipment, which is a heartbeat of innovation in the medical world, that's penalized. So there's a lot of mandates and penalties in there, and the construct of how to pay for it is different from. Remember, the goal is access to healthcare, affordable healthcare, quality healthcare. So I think there's better ways to do it. Certainly, I think regionally, and let the states look at it. What makes sense in Montana is not going to make sense what's in New York.
Well, Ryan, we are out of time with you. I just wanted to say...
It goes by so short.
I know. I want to say thanks for being willing to swing by on the last minute, and welcome again back to Montana, and enjoy your time with your family over the Good Friday holiday.
Well, and happy Good Friday, everybody, and remember about Good Friday, what it represents, and Montana, God bless, and God bless the troops and those that are out there defending us every day.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. We're going to take a break. Dave, I apologize, couldn't get your call in, but if you want to hang on, we will get you on after this break. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback, 721-1290. It's Good Friday. Thanks for joining us. John King is over there. I want to wish the best to Congressman Zinke. He had to zip. He was been on a couple television stations, radio, and I'm not sure where he's headed now. And
he didn't get to work out today.
No, he didn't.
Because he decided to do the media gigs.
Well, there you go. All right, let's get Dave on the line. Dave, I apologize for not getting you on with the congressman, but we'd sure love to have your opinion. Go ahead.
Well, I was just curious if you thought Congress was going to vote against put some more restriction on Iran, or if they were going to just wait or you wouldn't have an opinion yet.
Yeah, I think he hadn't read the framework yet.
Do you have the bullet points there, John?
Boy, I can pull them up.
Okay.
It is a little bit long.
Yeah, it's kind of long.
I will tell you some of the highlights from what I read yesterday. First of all, they don't have to stop spinning all of the uranium
centrifuges.
Their centrifuges.
Right.
Second of all, they don't have to get rid of all their plants. So, and it's the goal, and there's a lot of weird language in the framework. So, right now they're supposed to be 2 to 4 months away from a bomb.
Right.
Scare the heck out of everybody, right?
Right.
So, the framework sets out that they need to be at least 1 year away from the bomb for the next 10 years or next 20 years. And there's all this talk like this, like there's all these metrics that are impossible to judge.
Yeah, how do you quantify
yeah,
that? And not only that, how do you clarify? What's the word I'm looking for? How do you confirm that those basic things are being met?
Well, and then furthermore, how do you know if someone's 1 year away from building a bomb if you don't know where all of their facilities are? And that's the biggest thing. They could very well be running secret facilities that we don't know about. We know that they have done that in the past. As soon as 5 or 6 months ago, we found a new one in the mountains in Qum that we didn't know about before. So there's a lot of questions even after the framework. But, the biggest thing, though, is that the framework that the U.S. says they have is different than the one that the Iranians say they have. So the framework is apparently kind of like the streets of Missoula. Some are going north-south, some are going diagonally, some are going east-west, and they didn't really work out what happens when you get to malfunction junction.
Yeah, they all meet at malfunction junction, exactly. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, with 3 months away, it's logic to me that the only alternative is war.
Why is that? I just don't get that. The only alternative to this is to go back to what we were doing just 6 months ago.
But they're only 3 months away. I mean, we can't wait 6 months or a year or 2 years for a revolution or something.
Well, the sanctions were pushing them further and further away.
Allow me to ask you something, Dave.
Sure.
What would your solution be? Do you just back off and let them do their thing and then deal with it once they do have a bomb, or what? I'm just confused because I hear your criticism, but I'm wondering what you would do.
Well, it's logic. The logic says that either we go to war or we let them have the bomb. That's the bottom line.
Well, that's just. I think it's silly. I think it's a silly paradigm and a straw man on both sides. There is a lot of room between going to war, like ground troops in Iran, and giving them the bomb. And some of the things we've already been doing. One of them is sanctions. Others are kind of technically war, but kind of new. For example, Stuxnet. The Stuxnet virus that we threw on them somehow. It's all kind of secret, but we're pretty sure the U.S. is behind it. That came around, really set back their development of a nuclear weapon, and it was kind of a punch in the face to the Iranian leadership at a point where they were sitting pretty high on the hog, they thought. There's other techniques that we can use, including...
What about good old-fashioned sabotage? Or I'm sure the Israelis are probably deep in that, trying to figure that out.
Well, and let's not forget, just because you can, for example, take out a facility, bomb the facility, without sending a whole bunch of troops over there.
Right.
We know where a lot of these facilities are. We have the munitions to take them out.
Right. The military's talked about that, and they said it's like mowing the lawn. You'd have to do it about every 3 years.
Well, I wish I could mow my lawn every 3 years.
Right. No, that's a reasonable possibility.
Sure, yeah.
But like you said, there's maybe secret operations that we don't know about.
Right.
So if the military doesn't know about them, they can't bomb them. Right. So it's a big question.
Well, right now they're all spinning. They could be spinning faster. I mean, there's a setback is a setback.
Right.
And I'll be honest. If someone were to say, John, you're in control. You can take out this nuclear production facility by telling us to send this missile. It will set them back another month, but they're going to have the bomb in the next 2 weeks. John, do you push the button? Yes, John pushes the button. Take that facility out. We cannot have a nuclear Iran.
Well, I just think the politicians should be truthful to the public and say that a war is possible. I mean, whatever we do, it could lead to war. And
we have a war-weary country, don't we, Dave?
I understand, but
yeah.
they should be honest with the public.
Well, that's a good point. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call, buddy. Russell, we're going to get you on here in just a second. We have one line open, 721-1290. A little bit of open phone action here on this Good Friday between now and 10 o'clock, and we'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. John King, Peter Christian, Good Friday, and we want to say thanks again to Congressman Zinke for dropping by for half an hour. All right, let's get back to the phone. Go ahead.
Oh, no, we can go to the phones.
Right.
I would like to talk about the water trial a little bit today.
Okay.
I know we're running out of time, but everyone wants to talk about Iran again.
Russell, go ahead.
Hey, short and sweet, guys.
Okay.
Any standards, these are bad people over there, and they want to do their best to take over the world by any means necessary. They want a bomb? Light one and give it to them. End of story.
All right. Thanks, Russell. Did you hear that?
No.
They want a bomb? Light one and give it to them.
Oh.
All right. Eric, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Yeah, everything you guys are talking about with Iran, as Ron Paul states, are acts of war, sanctions, and it's amazing that Christians are actually calling for this. And then Zinke comments concerning our founders. He's probably hoping we're ignorant of their statements, that we stay out of entangling foreign alliances, and that we mind our own business. All the while forgetting the neocon document or writings in the Project for a New American Century, and our meddling in Iranian affairs after duly constituted elections, and are putting a puppet state in there of radical Muslims back in the 50s. And this is all common knowledge. Ron Paul talks about it all the time. And now the war drums are beating again, while we lose our liberties at home and face oppression by our own government with its unjust courts. And we're all pointing the finger overseas when we should be pointing the finger at ourselves.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks for the
That's
call,
my
Eric.
comment.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the call.
All right. In view of that, speaking of pointing at ourselves, I would like to point at Missoula for a little bit and talk about something that Missoula leadership has been talking about a lot. And that's the idea that if Missoula gets control of the water, the rates are going to go down.
Right.
They're going to save money. They're going to reinvest it in the system. They'll be able to fix the pipes faster. They're going to be able to do a better job than any private company ever could because, heck, we're us. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the problem. The last couple of days of the trial, I think it was Tuesday, the Carlisle people had experts come in and analyze how well Missoula runs the stuff that are already in charge of.
Right, like the wastewater treatment plant.
Exactly. Did they get a world-class rating? No. Did they get a passable rating? No. They got in trouble. And when they get in trouble by the Department of Environmental Quality, which 11 times in the last 4 or 5 years, they are slow to respond. At least that's what came up in trial. I'm sure there's a great way to spin that.
Well, now hold on a second. If that's what came up in trial, why didn't the city come back and counter that?
Well, the city did. They said, well, we met all the standards. We came back and we fixed what we were doing wrong with the DEQ.
Okay.
And the point was, well, first of all, for the other side is basically, well, you've screwed up in the first place, and you only fixed it after you got in trouble. Okay, you still got in trouble.
Okay,
that's basically the case. It's therefore the whatever.
Okay.
But today the thing that I think most Missoulians really think about is how much is this going to cost me personally, right? And yesterday at trial, they had a guy that's basically he trains people, teaches classes on how to set rates and judge rates, and he was asked to come in and analyze Missoula and whether or not after the purchase price, after the bond, all this stuff, whether or not the city of Missoula would be able to charge a lower rate than a private company that didn't go through all that stuff, right?
Okay.
And just paid the public price.
Right.
Well, here's some of his analysis. If you could go ahead.
I got it ready.
Okay, now one of the things that's really interesting about this little quip back and forth here. So he goes basically and he says, no, the city's not going to charge lower rates. And the cross-examination, so this is the city's attorneys. This is when the city's supposed to be shining, right? The city attorney comes up and he's like, well, look at all of the rest of the water companies in the state of Montana. None of them are public. They're all private. And then here's the response. This is what it sounded like.
You said they're all public, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, they're all public. None of them are private except for Missoula's. Okay. And that's basically kind of inferring that's a problem, right?
Yeah, so here we go.
128 out of 129 water systems for cities and towns in Montana are municipally owned. What do you think about that? I mean, are 128 cities and towns making a mistake by not having their water systems provided by private utilities that would then be protecting the customers by PSC regulation?
Well, what I think of it is it has absolutely no relevance as to what the rates would be if the city took over this utility. If you're going to establish what's in the best interest of Missoula's customers in terms of the people who take water service from Mountain Water Company, you must know whether it's going to be adequate service and whether the rates are going to be better than Mountain Water Company's. The city has not presented any information whatsoever as to what the rates are going to be. They have no studies that they presented. They've taken individual line items for expenses, which is incomplete and incompetent. They've taken rate comparisons, which has nothing to do with how you establish utility rates, so that's incompetent. They've talked about a lower interest rate for debt service without talking about the principal payments, so that's incompetent. So they've indicated through their presentations individual items implying that the rates would be lower, failing to do what they would have to do if they were before a regulatory agency, and that is bear the burden of proof that the rates that they would charge are going to be reasonable. They provided no such information. I've taken a look at it, and I'm convinced, and in my expert opinion, with a reasonable degree of certainty, professional certainty, that the rates are going to have to be much higher, and whether 120 other municipalities have different rates and have different systems has no bearing on what the rates for the customers and the best interest of the customers in Missoula are going to be.
Now, hold on a minute. If I'm the attorney for the city, why am I not interrupting him at every pause and saying, well, what about this? What about this? I mean, he let him go on and basically just hammer.
I stopped it here. So he tries to get him to, he does this 3 times. He asks the question 3 different ways, and each time the guy goes off. Well, and man, the analysts that came in really hammered the city on a number of things. They said that they were lax in their governance. They said that the city, quote, didn't learn from its mistakes, end quote. Said, as you just heard, I think 4 times in a row, incompetent at analyzing costs. And me, as Joe Citizen, sitting back here, I was like, yeah, okay, they didn't learn. Yeah, they're doing the same water suit again. Yeah, they're incompetent at expecting how much it's going to cost. I think they've raised the bill 4 or 5 times. This seems to be true to me.
But
this seems to go with what I've experienced as a Missoulian.
Well, no, but you have to understand that this is the company. This is the company.
No,
line.
It's not.
You would expect that. Well, now, but didn't the company hire this expert to come and testify?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. But he's not, like, he doesn't work for Carlisle.
All I'm saying is you would expect him to have some sort of testimony that would be favorable to the company and not to the city.
Well, the city doesn't, as he was explaining, there is no counterbalance here. The city hasn't come forward with a guy that's going to tell you what the rate's going to be.
Right. Okay.
So who are you going to listen to? The guy that is in charge of setting rates all over the country, an expert in setting rates, who actually teaches people how to set rates, or the city who won't tell you what the rates are going to be?
With that, we're going to take a break.
Deafening silence.
But, the day is young. I'm sure they might put somebody on the stand today. Who knows? We're going to come right back. 721-1290 is our number. It is fascinating. And by the way, you can listen to that trial online, right? You don't have to go and actually be there.
You can watch it on MCAT.org while it's live. I don't know if they have recordings of the past sessions.
They don't. But you can watch it while it's going on. It's going on, I believe, right now. So we're going to come right back with more of Talk Back in a moment. And we're back on Talkback, 721-1290, and our good friend Mike has been waiting for a while. Mike, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is every time you get a congressman or senator on and you talk about the Forest Service and the laws of the forest, somebody has got to ask these people, well, who passed the law that you're complaining about, and who has the ability to repeal it? If you're going to show up on the Talkback show or any show, and there's a law you don't like, draft one up and say, this is what how I intend to get rid of the stupid thing. Because I am so tired of listening, well, they passed the law. You're the knuckleheads that passed the law, so get rid of it.
Okay.
I don't want to pick on poor old Zinke, but I mean, I think he could have showed up with a law.
Mike, he just got there like last week, man. Come on.
Well, yeah, but he's been campaigning for a year or what, and he could have known that in advance.
Well, and here's the thing too, Mike, and it is really complicated. I think, yeah, you're right. In many ways, the person that has the ability to fix a lot of America's problems, or the group, is going to be Congress. But right, it's a divided system with checks and balances in that way. So in the meantime, in the interim, that Congress has been, in a pitched battle back and forth, all of these giant bureaucracies have been basically managed and run through commands from the executive branch. And sometimes the Congress disagrees. Most of Congress will disagree with these new executive orders or these executive administrative commands that go out through the various bureaucracies.
Like the EPA.
And they find themselves getting stuck in a position where they have to go to court and wait for it to go all the way through the Supreme Court, whose docket's fairly full as is.
Years.
And in the meantime, we have to live with the bad decisions that are made on a flick of a switch by one administration's bureaucracy or by the president himself.
Yeah, well, I stop you there just a minute. And this is one of the things that most people don't know, and they should know, that about 99% of laws passed in this are passed by bureaucracies, and the Congress has nothing to do with them. And that is the same with the Forest Service, with because they carry the same weight as the law as Congress does. All these bureaucracies do.
Right. That was my point exactly.
Understand that they have to curtail the spending, the money going to the Forest Service head wheels, and say the GS9 cannot write up a deal and put it in there and put it to publish in the public Federal Registry and have a law within 90 days or 30 days. It's a very short time. Somebody has to start putting the brakes on this, and it is Congress that can do it. And when they sit around and complain, I have a dim view of that. If you can't do it, I don't care if you don't succeed, but at least try. If you can't climb a mountain, and I can't climb it, but if you didn't try, you'll never know if you get there.
All right, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
Alrighty, bye.
Appreciate the call. Now, here's my take. All right, this is why elections are important. Why are elections important, Peter? Well, allow me to explain.
Yes, Peter, please.
All right. When you are elected to an office, especially an executive office, like the President of the United States, okay, what does the President get to do?
Golf.
He gets to appoint all sorts of people to all sorts of positions. So if you're a president with a mindset like Barack Obama, we're talking about social justice, all this kind of stuff, gonna have a war on coal, gonna end coal in our lifetime, blah. Who do you think you're going to appoint to an agency that is going to oversee coal? I don't know. Maybe we could find somebody that would put such onerous regulations on coal-fired generating plants that they have no choice but to close down altogether. All right, or take an agent.
Or the internet. Maybe you'll put the head of Comcast in charge because they gave you money. I don't know. Maybe you do that.
How about the IRS? How about the Veterans Administration? How about you name it? You name it. This is why elections are important, and what drives me insane is the amount of people who say, well, my vote doesn't count. It's been, somebody stole my vote, and I don't know where it is, so I'm not going to bother. Why should I go out and vote? Nobody's going to listen to me anyway. That is wrong. I was going to use a different word, but it's Good Friday. So anyway, that's my opinion, okay? I continue to believe that my vote is important and your vote is important, and the aggregate of votes of people who disagree with what's going on in the system right now, it is so important to gather together and make your voice heard. So go ahead, John.
Okay, I've got a litany of Facebook comments I want to get through.
Go.
Ronald says, what a wimp! Exclamation point. I think he's talking about Ryan Zinke.
All right.
That should be an interesting sparring match.
Yeah, good luck.
Mitchell says, we have to look at Iran's action, not their rhetoric. Obama seems to be heading in a headlong rush to resurrect Persia at Israel's peril. Lindley Nelson says, of course the founders thought about a lawless President. Ryan, think that statement through a little more carefully. I'm still very disappointed that you voted to keep Boehner in leadership. I know he gave you money, but what a letdown. Doc says, in response to the water, help me out with my math. The city wants to reap $1 million of profit, now going to Carlisle, while losing $2 million in taxes and adding several $1 million of debt load. I come up with negative numbers and an inevitable increase in either rates or other taxes. What am I missing? Well, I think you might be missing that there's actually added cost to the bonds because you don't pay back just what you borrow. You have to pay back more. So there's extra debt load you've got to pay back too. So I think it might be even worse than Doc has summarized here, but he does a fairly good job of cutting to the quick there.
Yeah, what's coming up on Monday's fabulous program? We have wonderful Hal Gillette's coming in, right, with the Shrine Circus.
Yeah, and
Lawrence Markarian.
Boy, I can't remember. I'm sorry. It's just been a busy week for me. After I got befuddled when you left me yesterday.
I
was
apologize
all alone.
for that. I was not feeling well, and God bless Johnny came in early to fill in, and I left him in alert. So my humble apologies, and I thank you for doing that. For all you guys, have a wonderful Good Friday and a happy Easter, and go out and celebrate the risen Christ, and have yourself a great day. Passover, whatever you want to celebrate.
Grace and peace to you.
Yes, you guys have a great day.